It's time to take a look at what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Tika Laurent is with us. Hello to you, Deepti.
Hi, hello.
We're looking at the French press, and of course the big story here in France is, of course, this filthy air here in Paris. What are the papers telling us, Deepti?
Well, there's a lot of fatalism in the French papers today, Hala. Look at the front page of Libé. It says, "Tomorrow we stop breathing." The title itself is covered in the smog that has engulfed many parts of France and especially Paris. Not a very glorious picture of Paris there. La Croix says pollution is a major problem in France. Pollution kills just as many people as alcohol does in France. That number is just under 50,000 people a year. And the thing is, pollution kills slowly. Just to give you an example, in urban zones with a population greater than 100,000 people, pollution shaves 15 months off the life of a person who's around 30 years old.
Goodness. Well, there's lots of focus then on what needs to be done to tackle this pollution, isn't there?
We're choking. We need solutions. That's what Le Parisien says in this article. As many people might know, here in France, here in Paris, it'll be the fourth day of restricted traffic. In other words, only cars with odd-numbered license plates have the right to be on the roads today. But that's one way of combating terrorism. But Libération says, well, maybe Paris needs to look at other metropolitan cities that are doing more aggressive, taking more aggressive measures to combat pollution. In Tokyo, for instance, they've banned all diesel cars for some years now, and that has proven quite effective. Mm-hmm. In Milan, authorities have approved a city tax, essentially taxing people who want to use their cars in the city center. And this is something that London has imposed since 2003.
Well, Le Monde is fairly critical of the measures which are currently being taken to tackle the pollution here in France, aren't they?
Well, Le Monde says the alternate license plate scheme is a fiasco. That's what it says in this editorial today. It says it gives the illusion that something is being done when in reality it's doing little to combat pollution. The restricted traffic in Paris was meant to encourage people to use public transport, which was made free this week. But with a breakdown in major train lines this week, Le Monde says all it's done is highlight, I quote, the third world level of public services in France. The SNCF, which owns French train lines, has for too long focused on its more lucrative investments like the high-speed trains. As a result, it has neglected things like the Paris metro system, and this was the result, massive queues in Paris train stations. Le Monde says we need more investment in local public transport.
Indeed. Very dramatic there, the headlines.
I've
noticed this Beijing sur Seine.
That's right.
Let's move on now to another story which has been making big headlines here in France, of course. This is François Hollande's former budget minister, Jérôme Cahuzac, who's now been sentenced to jail time. He
will serve 3 years in prison, Jérôme Cahuzac, for money laundering and tax fraud. His ex-wife will serve 2 years in prison. Le Parisien actually says he may not serve that sentence for quite some time yet. Cahuzac and his ex-wife have vowed to appeal the decision handed by a Paris court yesterday. As a result, he'll actually remain free until that appeals hearing. But nonetheless, that hasn't stopped this sort of schadenfreude from French papers this morning. L'Opinion, first of all, the right-wing paper, has hailed the court's decision to convict Cahuzac. In this article, the paper says it marks the end of impunity for French politicians, and it reminds readers that it's actually the heaviest sentence handed down to a French politician in 20 years. So that's really saying something. Indeed, French authorities really wanted to make an example of Cahuzac. He was a man, after all, who was in charge of cracking down on tax evasion while he was budget minister, and this decision is expected to send a message to other French politicians.
And let's just quickly, Deepti, let's see if we can end on a lighter note this morning. It appears that French people, now, I'm not sure if I believe this, are more polite to each other in times of crisis. Is that true?
Well, if you read this article from Le Figaro, that's what this survey says. Le Figaro explains that in times of crisis, values like politeness, discretion, rigor are extremely valued, not just in the workplace, but all facets of society. Case in point, François Fillon's victory in last month's Conservative primary election shows just how much people value these ideas of manners. Fillon, according to Le Figaro, embodies politeness, discretion, and rigor, and that's what him elected. And on the flip side, we saw what bad manners do to you. Nicolas Sarkozy obviously lost in that primary. And perhaps he embodies, for some people, the opposite of good manners.
Oh dear, well let's see if that filters down to the population at large. So keep our fingers crossed. Thank you so much to Tika Laurent bringing us the French front pages this morning.